and welcome back to Ultiworld's coverage of the 2014 Stanford Invite. I'm Charlie Eisenhood alongside Wes Cronk, and we're bringing you this pre-quarter matchup between Texas and Wisconsin. Perhaps not the pre-quarter that you were expecting, but it is the pre-quarter that you will get here today after a wild day of pool play that saw 3 #1 seeds lose games, including Texas, who lost 2 games. They lost to UC Davis, who went 3-0 out of the bottom of that pool, and they lost to Central Florida. So we're getting underway here. Wisconsin is starting this game on offense, and we're going to get a great look at both of these teams. 2 outstanding programs in college ultimate, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the difference makers on both of these teams as we go along. Seeing a big, tall zone from Texas to start things off, and the excellent Will Driscoll in the cup of that zone as Wisconsin cuts through the middle and into the end zone on a nice, easy downwind score as they beat that zone.
Pretty much what you would expect out of Wisconsin. You know, like you said to start, Charlie, this is not the pre-quarters that most people had imagined. I think that this is more likely what people would have expected out of a finals or a semis than a pre-quarters. But I guess we are the beneficiaries of some sloppy play and some upsets today, because these are 2 teams that are a great matchup and, you know, 2 of the more consistent programs in recent history.
Wisconsin is playing without perhaps their best player, Colin Camp, who's been out all season with an ACL injury that he suffered last year. He is expected to return for the series for this team, but he's on the sideline in street clothes today. And unfortunately, many of the Hodags are wearing jerseys that have black numbers, so it's very difficult to read them. We're going to do our best to bring you names as we can tell, but it's, from our vantage point, almost impossible to see their numbers. So we will keep you posted on that as best we can. Here's Texas out on the line. You can see how tall they are. One of their signature strengths, and many Texas teams, Austin Doublewide, the club team out of the same city that this college team plays from, is also known for its physicality and its height.
Yeah, it's definitely a Texas mentality. Big guys, big throws, lots of athleticism, and you know, recently it's really been coming together for both them on the club side and the college side.
There's 2 guys you're really going to want to keep your eye on this Texas team. Will Driscoll, of course, one of the top contenders for the Callahan this year. He'll be downfield, as well as Mitchell Bennett, who's a lightning fast cutter for them. He's number 21. He's churning underneath right now and receiving the pass from Will Driscoll. So it's Bennett on the outside, looking to move it back towards the middle. He finds Chris Brooks. Brooks floats it out to Whit Perkins. Moving ahead now. Colby Jansen has it. Man defense from Wisconsin. And we have a call on the field.
You know, Charlie, this is certainly poised to be one of, if not the most highly competitive games that we've seen so far today, if not only for the fact that both of these teams expected to avoid this step. Neither of them want to be eliminated before Sunday. That's just not how it works.
Not with these programs. That's absolutely right, Wes. As we see Texas working down the field and into the end zone. Chris Brooks pulling down the score for Texas, and we're all tied up here at 1 with back-to-back downwinders. If you're just joining us, the story of the day has really been the wind here in Stevenson, California.
I can imagine that people who have been watching us all day have gotten annoyed at how many times that we've mentioned it, but it is hard to ignore.
It has really, it's affected every game, and even the best players have seen their game really struggle, frankly, because of the conditions. And we will see what happens in this game. The wind is blowing relatively from right to left on your screen. And you can see a full view of the field there now. It has been windier than it is right now, but the breeze continues, and we may, as we have seen so far today, we may see very few scores to this right-hand end zone.
Yeah, that certainly has been the trend. By far the most impressive points of the game, or of the day today, have been those that were able to look seamless while going upwind, just because of the, how difficult the rest of the points have made it clear that effort is.
So we see Will Driscoll out there again. As the pull goes up, I'm sorry, Will Driscoll's on the sideline at this point. So he tends to play both ways for this team and plays a lot of points, but really does play within the system of this Texas team as we watch Wisconsin begin their march down the field. Sam Loveland swinging it toward the middle there, and now we see a deep shot, and it's a great throw, and it's right into the end zone there for Wisconsin. So two nice, quick offensive possessions without a turnover for Wisconsin.
Yeah, whoop, I think we have a call. Something's happening because people are not moving.
There may be a travel call back at the mark, but no, the observer signals that it is a score. Okay. So it is a 2-1 game. Wisconsin leads.
That's pretty much what you expect out of these teams going downwind. We've seen 3 points in a row just go pretty smoothly, and I would expect nothing less.
Both of these teams competed last year at the college championships, and both suffered defeats in the pre-quarter round in that tournament. Wisconsin falling to UC Davis, and Texas falling to Harvard. I don't think either expected to lose in that round, and I don't think many would have picked them to lose in that round against those teams.
Yeah, especially Wisconsin, who for much of last season seemed to be the favorite going into the series.
Absolutely. Brian Hart, their Callahan nominee, pacing that team. They came out at warm-up and were easily the best team on the field. And then started to struggle a little bit more during the regular season, but still played fairly well. And then at home in Madison, bounced in the pre-quarters to a UC Davis team that shocked everybody, frankly. Kind of snuck in late. Nobody expected them to really even make it to the college championships. But they're starting to make their presence known a little earlier this season by going 3-0 today and winning their pool.
Yeah, you can't say they're as much of a surprise now, but I don't think anyone expected them to start Saturday undefeated.
Eli Kearns, absolute star for that UC Davis team. Big Texas Huck here, looking for Will Driscoll downfield, and Driscoll gets there easily. So that's a quick score for Texas, and we're seeing nice clean play here to start things off, something we haven't seen much of today, as the score gets tied at 2s.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace for us, being able to watch these points that don't turn into marathons. Teams have been struggling going both directions today, obviously much more so in the upwind direction to our right, but there have been very easy turns and unforced errors all over the field, going both directions by every team we've watched so far, and this is by far the cleanest game, and really it's the most like the game that we expected coming into the weekend out of the field of teams that we're watching.
That is true. 2-2 the score. Texas ranked number 3 in the nation right now in the Ulti World Power Rankings, having just come off of a great performance at warm-up. Went undefeated down in Tampa just 2 weeks ago, but have had to fight through a little bit more adversity here in California to get things going this weekend, taking a surprising 2 losses in pool play.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected Davis to come out quite as hot as they did. Even more so, the loss to UCF was, in a lot of ways a shocker after Texas so easily handled the field at warm-up, which included UCF.
Pull getting set to come up here from Texas. It will roll out of bounds. And Wisconsin will get set to check things into play. Danny Stuhlegro standing in the middle of the field, looking to probably get this first reset. It comes to him, but it bounces over his head, and then a big catch block there from Texas. That was Carlos Vargas, and he takes an immediate timeout as they look to punch in the first upwind break of the game here, Wes.
Now here's the big question. Are they going to utilize the experimental rule and sub in offensive players that they want to have on this goal line stand?
It seems that the only real positions that you might want to substitute, you only get one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just joining us, this is indeed experimental rule this weekend at Stanford. You're allowed to sub in one player during a timeout. You might want to bring in somebody as a thrower, or you might want to bring in somebody as potentially an ISO cutter at the front of the end zone. I can't really see anything else, so we'll probably know as soon as we see them come out of this timeout whether or not that's the case. Looks like they stuck with their 7, Wes.
Yeah.
We see Vargas coming back over the disc. Looks like might be Will Driscoll at the front of the stack.
From a coaching perspective, it's hard to really think too much about these experimental rules because they don't factor into the rest of your season. So, I wouldn't expect the coaches and the captains to really, try to play them and get advantages from them as much as they would if this were a new rule that were going to affect the rest of their season.
We have seen it used a little bit this weekend, but not much, as Texas got the disc back into play here. Chris Brooks with it. Gives it back to Vargas. Big around backhand. May have been some contact on the throw. We'll see if there's a foul call. Looks like there will be. Players reset. Disc comes back. Honestly, it's been a battle at some points today, just getting the disc recovered from wherever it ends up.
Yeah, there have been so many discs thrown into the parking lot today. I've never seen anything quite like it. So many replacement discs had to been retrieved.
Brooks holding. Pick called downfield. Right now, Texas not finding much downfield. Brooks and Vargas working it back and forth between themselves. Brooks finds the around backhand. Jordan Taylor dumps it right back. Now in the hands of Driscoll. Driscoll fakes both throws. Brooks not finding much space, but Driscoll throws over the top. Good, hard, physical man defense is one of Wisconsin's calling cards, and they're showing it here on this goal line stand. They know how important it is to keep Texas out of this upwind end zone. Big layout, and it's not going to be a foul call. Great play there.
Yeah, I like the no call there. Despite there being some clear contact, the Texas player obviously acknowledges that he was bested in that situation.
I believe that was Austin Reef on the D. And it comes to him in the middle of the field, but he can't hang on. Low throw. So Vargas picks up for Texas, and they're right back on the doorstep.
This is the killer that we've been talking about all day. The inside your own half of the field turnover, especially moving upwind.
Disc goes into the end zone, and a layout from Jordan Taylor, not quite into the end zone. He's just right on the goal line. Dishes it back. Chase Cunningham has it here. And now looking into the end zone and finding his man. And Texas opens the upwind scoring with the first break of the game.
You know, and what led to this was what we have seen far too often today, which is the unforced turnover by Wisconsin on a simple swing pass, just, you know, not making the connection that the team is used to doing pretty much automatically, and it led to a, you know, turnover close to their end zone, and Texas did what they needed to do in taking advantage of that to get the break.
If you're watching this game on YouTube right now, you might consider relocating to ultiworld.com and watching on our live Stanford Invite tournament page, where you can get live score updates right alongside the stream. Head over to ultiworld.com, click on the link to the Stanford Invite tournament page, and continue to enjoy this live free coverage, as well as keeping up to date on the rest of the happenings around both the men's and the women's division here in Stanford. And when I say here in Stanford, I really mean here in California, because the women are playing on the Stanford campus, but we are here in Stevenson, California, which is about a 2-hour drive from Palo Alto. And we're sort of in the Central Valley.
Home to 313 residents.
That's absolutely right. And a lot of cattle.
More cattle than residents, for sure.
The wind has actually died down quite a bit here, Wes, from what we've seen earlier in the day. Big outside in backhand pull from Texas. It's going to hit and be knocked down by the Wisconsin handlers. Moving ahead is Wisconsin. Big swing all the way across the field and too far out in front. So Texas now with the opportunity to get the upwind, downwind. Cunningham dumps. Now they look to the end zone and they find Michael Hayes for the goal, and Texas converts the upwind, downwind and makes it a 2-point game. It's now 4-2. Tough leads.
Tough seems to be a team that's come out with something to prove in this game. They've been playing near perfect ultimate, which is just such a far cry from everything else we've seen today from the entire field. It's the most delightful surprise we could have asked for.
And hopefully tomorrow will be more of the same, Wes. I think that we are likely to see much better conditions throughout the day tomorrow. And the forecast is warm and sunny, so we can look forward to that.
You know, and really what I want to see is I want to see these teams able to play their games so we can really see how they stack up next to each other. It's so hard to take anything away from what we've seen so far this weekend, because, you know, it's just been the same over and over again, and, you know, there's not a lot of talent coming through because the conditions just have not let it.
It's been more of a sort of team effort, field position kind of day.
Yeah.
And that has meant that we haven't seen those individual star performances very often. I think we saw a couple. Pretty impressed with Chris LaRocque of Florida State in the game today. Andrew Roney played very well for FSU as well.
Trent Dillon had a great game for Pitt.
Absolutely. Carl Morgenstern as well, maybe a name that many aren't so familiar with, but had an excellent game. But you know, it's been the traditional stars and the Callahan nominees that haven't really played at that level. They've been asked to do more, like take more throws, as we see a big shot here from Wisconsin. 2 defenders in the area, but it gets brought down by Wisconsin. Chris Weiland comes down with it, the 6'2" graduate student, and it's now 4-3 as Wisconsin stops that short Texas run.
Yeah, this is certainly a weekend where I don't think that anyone's overly upset that stats aren't being more meticulously tracked, because they would just do such a disservice, especially to those top-tier players. Because they're being asked to do so much, they have looked at times ridiculous in doing so, just because no one would be able to, but the disc is being put in their hands because that's who you expect to, if anyone can, be able to produce something.
Before the game against against Pittsburgh, UNC's John Nethercutt came up to us and said, be sure to say that I've only had 10 turnovers. So every time I turn the disc over, you just say that was his 10th turnover. and I mean, it sums it up a little bit. He probably picked the disc up 100 times in that game. That's not even an exaggeration.
There were points where he had maybe 10 turnovers.
Yeah, absolutely. Individual points.
Yeah.
So, and I think that goes to show that, you want the disc in the hands of your best player, and you're asking them to try to make some big throws, but the conditions are such that making those throws is very, very difficult. But we have a great game in our hands here as Texas comes back downwind here. Disc comes to the sideline for Cody Holloway. I like the resets for Texas. They've looked very crisp so far in comparison to a lot of teams. A shot downfield to Mitchell Bennett, but it's going to be too much even for the speedy Bennett. So Wisconsin now with an opportunity to go up the field.
Yeah, that was a rare turnover for Texas in this game thus far. They've looked, as you said, very crisp, and they've done a good job resetting and keeping their stall count low in order to not force the tough throws in this heavy wind.
Good power position there for Wisconsin. Looks off the upfield options. Now moving ahead, but floating over the head of the intended receiver, and it's macked out of bounds by Whit Perkins.
To some degree, this point is it's conforming more to what we've seen thus far today. First multiple turnover point of this game so far.
Bennett hits Driscoll. Driscoll fakes. Now looking to the reset. Finds it. Brooks. Holding. Back to Driscoll. Now moving out, and just inside the front of the end zone there is Jack Clutton. So Texas retakes a 2-point lead here with a downwind score, cleaning it up after some initial sloppiness. And you're watching Ultiworld's coverage of the Stanford Invite, live from Stevenson, California. If you're enjoying the coverage so far, we'll be right back after this brief message.
Hey, how was last night?
It was great.
Yeah, did you do Thursday?
I did. Moon Temple with the whole family.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was great. The kids love that Chinese food,
Always like
Come on, Ben. It's Casual Friday.
Rookie.
We're back here in Stevenson, California as Texas gets set to pull from that downwind end zone. Score is 5-3. Texas up a pair on Wisconsin. And this is a Wisconsin team that also played fairly well at warm-up. Despite having very limited numbers, they lost a lot of players to flight cancellations because of some heavy winter weather in the Midwest and East Coast, and played on the first day of the tournament with just 12 players. Moving well now. Taking a shot down the field, and a great grab in the end zone. Takes the contact, gets the score. Beautiful grab there from the Wisconsin receiver, and it's now 5-4.
Yeah, that was, as we've mentioned earlier in the day, one of the first big catches down in this end zone. We haven't, despite the numerous hucks and the real penchant for getting the disc towards this end of the field, we haven't seen a lot of plays on him.
Wisconsin out there prepping. More than ever, this Wisconsin team has become somewhat of a faceless army. Colin Camp on the sideline, certainly a well-known name, played on the Next Gen Tour, was really one of the most outstanding players at the college championships last year. Despite Wisconsin's lack of success and bouncing before they made it into the bracket, he was really great, and I'm sure they're eager for him to get back on the field. But a lot of their other players, not so well known outside of the region, and I think maybe that's how they like it.
Yeah, it's always been a point of pride for this Wisconsin program to be that faceless army, and it speaks to how they were able to compete with only 12 guys at warm-up. But when you have guys like Brian Hart's, Colin Camps, thinking back to like the Dan Heymans, sometimes they just stick out of that faceless army, and there's nothing you can do to keep them anonymous.
So Texas will center this up after the bricked pull. And it's a big opening space for Mitchell Bennett with 3 straight deep cuts that sort of reset the stack downfield. And now it's going to be a shot. Bennett looking for Driscoll, and Driscoll running it down and making it, I believe he was out the back of the end zone there. So tried to toe the back line. I think the sideline thought it was a score, but
it looked as if the observer had signaled for a score, but
I think Driscoll immediately acknowledged that he was out and dropped the disc. So Wisconsin with a chance now to go up the field. A nice touch throw there inside. And block there from Joel Clutton. Disc in the hands of Colby Jansen now. Dumps it straight back. Brooks has been touching the disc a lot for this Texas offense. There's Driscoll. Nice catch on the undercut. A little high release flick to Driscoll at the front cone, and it's a score for Texas. And Driscoll doing what he does, getting down the field into the open space and making it look pretty easy while he does it.
Yeah, he didn't get it on the first try when he was just slightly out of the back of the end zone, but he made sure to finish that point with the disc in his hands.
6-4 your score. Texas, with the only break of the game so far, has the upwind, downwind. And Wisconsin's offense will look to just keep pace here as they wait for their opportunity to get that upwinder, which is really what it's been. It's not been the work the disc all the way up the field situation, more an opportunistic, can I get that short field 25 yards and punch it in. So the wind dying down, though, that may change.
Yeah, and it's important to note that this is, because it's pre-quarters, a game to 15, so we're actually 2 points from half, not 1 as we have been most of the day. So we have a lot of game left. We have a lot of game left.
See Texas on the line, preparing to pull. Here's the pull from Texas. It's going to go out of bounds at about the same spot as the previous.
To be fair, getting to the brick is a luxury today for most of these teams. So they have to be pretty satisfied with that pull at this, just considering the context.
Let's watch this Texas defense perhaps bracketing a little bit in this horizontal stack. Both teams showing horizontal offenses early here. Now a big shot down the field, but it's going to be great defense there. forcing the turn. And so now it will be Carlos Vargas to pick up for Texas. Vargas holding. Back and forth between the handlers right now. Cunningham back with Vargas. And there's a call on the field. No signs of zone from this Wisconsin team. They really sticking to that man, and we'll see if that changes at all considering the wind patterns.
Well, you know, for a team like Wisconsin, they haven't been able to play in the wind very much, but they are in great shape. I mean, they can run track all winter.
And so a block, nice layout block there from Wisconsin. A little unclear what happened there because the Texas player picked the disc up. I think he was just putting it to the front of the line, and we see Wisconsin go into the end zone. Nice isolation play there to set up the score and cut the lead back to 1.
Yeah, this has the makings of the best game we've seen so far today. Though, because of the relative patience and kind of smooth play of both of these teams, it hasn't necessarily been the most exciting, but technically it is definitely the most impressive.
Well, and I think what's great is that we're really seeing some offense. We're seeing some plays. On that last Texas offensive possession, we saw the flood play, 3 players going deep, opening up space for the weak side cutter, Mitchell Bennett to come underneath. And we really just haven't seen that much of that today because it's been so much pick up the disc and throw it as far down the field as you can. And so, we're going to actually have some real strategy to discuss here in the second half, I think.
Yeah, now we have teams doing what they've been planning on doing. They're playing their game, and we have the privilege of being able to see what they've been working on.
Wisconsin, always so solid on the fundamentals, and as you pointed out, always a team that's in great shape even early in the season. Pride themselves on hard work. Of course, have a number of college championships under their belt and are always at the top of the college division by the time May rolls around.
Yeah. No matter how many names you know on that team, it's a team you can never sleep on.
Will Driscoll putting up a big flick downfield. And it's a great D from the Wisconsin defender. I think that was Sterling Noak, sophomore cutter. So Wisconsin with another opportunity to go upwind. Great strike cut, power position, but no options. Always frustrating for a handler in that situation. Good body there, and now they're gonna have an option, and they're gonna go down the field, goes over the top, but gets blocked by a trailing defender. Whit Perkins with the D there. And immediately Texas looking to return the favor, looking for Will Driscoll down the field. Can he get there? Big bid, but can't come up with it. Great effort from Will Driscoll.
Yeah. It seems like he was well out of bounds by the time he even bid on that, but still a great play.
So Wisconsin looking to the inside flick on that strike cut towards the break side, but does not connect. And it's back into the hands of Texas, heading downwind. Another shot for Driscoll. This time he comes down with it and he's in the end zone. And that's his second score of this game, perhaps his third. And Texas now 1 point away from taking half here, up 7-5 on Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is, this is turning out to be a much more evenly paced back and forth matchup than anything we've seen so far. And but Texas is, as much as Wisconsin fights back, Texas is doing what they need to keep a little bit of padding. Doesn't help when Wisconsin drops a upwind break off of the fingertips, though.
It's been all day. Teams just saying almost a lot.
And the best players on these teams just fingertip misses.
And, I think part of it is, if you throw in these kinds of conditions, the disc just hops around a little bit in the air. It doesn't have that smooth flight path that you're used to. And when that happens, just the slightest misread on especially on a quick throw that's coming in can make you miss it.
Yeah, we saw it bright and clear with Christian Johnson during the last game. Had misses on, I think, his first 3 targets, just drops. Things that you don't expect from that caliber of player, but things that have become commonplace this weekend so far.
Pull set to go up from Chase Cunningham. And it's going to trail once again out of bounds, so will be centered up. Sun getting low, you can see the long shadows. And the temperature's starting to fall a little bit. Players putting on coats on the sideline.
Really the best conditions we've had all day, though.
Absolutely. This throw right to the front cone, but not in. He'll be right on the line. And we'll punch it right in to Aaron Spiess. And Wisconsin keeping pace with Texas after those initial breaks.
Yeah, and at this point, trading points is something Texas is willing to do for the time being.
7-6 the score here in Stevenson, California. And there's going to be a lot to process this evening as we sort of look at the final results of the day, because what's interesting is that with pool play, it's hard to make much of it, except that Colorado looks very good. Florida State looks very good. And a lot of other teams showed weakness in the wind. And that goes even for teams that were winning. The actual outcomes of games were often so close that they might have just as easily gone the other way. So determining who is actually played better today is very difficult. I think a lot of times it was really who caught those breaks. The one lucky bounce here, and the one solid throw there made all the difference. And so, but right now in these pre-quarter rounds, we're actually getting good conditions for quality ultimate, and so we may see a better sample size of how quality these teams are from this round.
Yeah, up to this point, everybody's had a patch where they have played poorly.
Mitchell Bennett with a drop there for Texas, so Wisconsin with an opportunity now with a little bit shorter field than they're used to, and it looks like they're going to pick it up and immediately take a timeout. So with the score 7-6, Texas out in front of Wisconsin. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, how was last night?
It was great.
Yeah, did you do Thursday?
I did. Moon temple with the whole family.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was great. The kids
Yeah.
love that Chinese food, you know?
Always like,
Come on, Ben. It's casual Friday.
Rookie.
hey, how was last night?
It was great.
Yeah, did you do Thursday?
I did. Moon temple with the whole family.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was great. The kids
Yeah.
love that Chinese food, you know?
Always like,
Come on, Ben. It's casual Friday.
Rookie.
We're back in Stevenson, California as the disc gets tapped in after this timeout. Wisconsin looking for their first upwind shot as the wind has died nearly to non-existent in this late evening. Nice grab there. Now just about 10 yards outside the end zone is Wisconsin looking to tie this game up.
These Wisconsin kids are flying right now. This is a great point.
Excellent movement and motion out of this timeout. Need to reset that stack. There's a call on the field as the observer comes over to sort things out. Ben Riemann with the disc. Senior on this Wisconsin squad. Gets checked in. Inside out break. And then a full thing and a big bid. Doesn't get it. Not into the end zone though. Wisconsin now right on the goal line. Big step around backhand. And there's, I believe, a pick call. Some frustration from the Wisconsin players who thought they'd finally gotten that score.
It was good restraint by Wisconsin, though, because he looked like he was pretty close to spiking that disc.
Disc tapped live. 2 yards out. Flip into the back of the end zone. Big layout catch, and he's in. And that's a tie ball game, folks. 7-7. Wisconsin gets their first upwinder of the game to tie things up here. And now this point will be for half.
Yeah. It's great to finally see a tie score on the scoreboard, Charlie. Just, we haven't gotten to 7 without there being a 3-point difference, I'm pretty sure, and it's refreshing to see these teams able to play their game and, you know, show that they are competitive with one another in every facet.
So some great offense there from Wisconsin. And the style of play has just shifted so drastically in the last 30 minutes.
Right?
I mean, from even when we started this game, it was still pretty windy, and now it is nothing but breezy. And we're going to start to see more of the true offensive and defensive natures of these teams. And we're in for a really good second half, that's for sure. So we're not going to talk so much about upwind, downwind anymore.
Yeah,
That was simply a break for Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
It happened to be in the upwind direction, but breaks may be a little bit more common throughout the rest of this game.
Yeah, the wind is still moving, you know, so it's there, but it's there to a degree that these teams can deal with easily.
Colby Jansen finds the dump. Big fake and a bump on the mark. Chris Brooks says not to do that again. Back in the hands of Brooks now. Great grab from Bennett, who gets it to Driscoll. Driscoll with a nice gainer on the open side. And now we have a stoppage on the field. Great to see the spacing of these teams.
Yeah, their ability to structure and reset is what sets elite teams like this apart from the rest of the pack.
Texas has had very good resets in this game as well. Something that stood out. Jansen with it. No options, has to dump. And there's the D. Wisconsin's been looking for it. And they get it, sidelines fired up. And Stuhlegro set to pick up here for Wisconsin. Throws the inside flick. Now to the around backhand into the end zone. And Wisconsin comes back to take half, 8-7, with a beautiful run of play there. Some great offense followed by some excellent downfield defense, forcing Texas into a lot of resets and eventually finding the D and the score.
Yeah, we have ourselves quite a ball game here, Charlie.
So with the score, Wisconsin 8, Texas 7, we're going to take this to halftime. We'll be back in about 10 minutes for the second half. Charlie Eisenhood, Wes Kronk back with you from Stevenson, California for the second half of this final round of the day, the pre-quarter matchup between Wisconsin and Texas. It's Wisconsin with an 8-7 lead after getting a pair of breaks to take half after trailing most of the first half. An impressive end to the first half for Wisconsin. And Wes, let's talk about some of the keys to the second half of this game. It's not something we've done a lot today because
Right.
it's been so windy that there hasn't been much to talk about in terms of strategy. But we really have a situation now where things are going to matter. And so what does Texas need to do? They looked like they sort of went on cruise control a little bit there partway through the first half and suddenly watched their lead slip away.
Well, I mean, you know, for both of these teams right now, it's boiling down to possession. And whoever makes the fewest mistakes, which is the first time for either of them today that has, you know, definitely been the case, because it was just assumed that there would be so many turnovers and so many chances. For Texas, you know, I think you're right. They kind of sat on their lead a little bit and then they lost it. But you know, what I'm seeing is this is a big team that, if they want to be successful, needs to use that and dominate the air. They have great throwers, big receivers. They need to be putting it up and, you know, making those big plays. If I'm Wisconsin, you know, really it's more of the same. Continue to have that meticulous possession, the free-flowing offense, and the you know, the beneficial resets, and they can continue pull this out.
Second half is underway with another bricked pull. And Texas will be able to center this up and get things started here in the second half. Will Driscoll in the stack. Chris Brooks set to get things going here for the tough offense. And it's another flood play for an underneath cut, this time from Driscoll. Texas moving quickly up the sideline, and here a miscommunication between Jansen and Driscoll, and it's a quick turnover. And Wisconsin has an opportunity to extend this lead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that communication would have mattered, because it seemed like the defender got a hand on that disc.
Immediately turned back over, though. And Driscoll picks up, and his Joel Clutton. Brooks going out to the far side with a big flick. And it's over the top of everybody.
It's probably one that Driscoll wants back.
So Wisconsin with an opportunity to go 70. Good downfield defense from Texas so far on this point. Great grab on the break side cut from Wisconsin. Little flip over the top, ends up in the hands of no one. So now Texas will come back the other direction. Quick shot looking for Mitchell. He can't come down with it in the sideline. A little frustrated with their team's miscues here.
Yeah, after the, you know, pretty relatively flawless first half for both of these teams, this isn't what we expected to start the second.
And both teams pretty fiery at halftime, trying to ramp up the intensity as they know this is, you know, a critical game. Got to win it to make it to the bracket tomorrow. Big floating huck could be anybody's, and it's brought down by Wisconsin about 20 yards out of their end zone. Going the IO flick, not quite into the end zone, just outside. It's Spies. Looking for the around backhand. And it gets hand blocked.
What a play from the ground.
And Chris Brooks, lying on the ground after falling down trying to stop the first fake, throws his hand up and gets the hand block, and a critical one right on the goal line.
Critical is an understatement at that point.
Driscoll has some options downfield, looks them off. Holloway moves it all the way to this near sideline. And Mitchell Bennett can't bring that one down. So a lot of turnovers to start this second half. And Wisconsin's going to take a timeout.
I think that's a good call by Wisconsin. This is a point that really needed to be settled down, especially after the way that they were stifled at the goal line in the last possession. This is a huge point for them because they just took the lead. If they can take this break, then their lead even further, they might start to walk away with this.
And so far, it's been a disappointing day for Texas. 1-2 on the day. Came into this tournament ranked, seeded third and ranked number 3 in the power rankings. Wisconsin's fallen down into the teens after a slow start at warm-up. And they're starting to put themselves on the map. They're 2-1. They come into this game playing well. And don't forget, they're playing without their star. Colin Camp's on the sideline.
It's a testament to their coach. Hector Valdivia is among the best, and it's a mentality in this program. Once somebody if somebody goes down, somebody else steps in, and they always have the talent and the depth to do that.
Just every year get great freshmen, and everybody works really hard, and you see that reflected in the performance on the field year after year. Hammer over into the break space. Keeps things moving for Wisconsin, but having trouble getting open upfield. The inside lane has been there. And they go for it again. Oh, but it can't come up with it. In and out. It looked like it was in his hand, Wes.
It seems like he felt the pressure of the defense there. And, if he were to have made the extended play and bid on that, the collision to ensue would have probably been big.
Mitchell Bennett coming on from the backside onto that play and may have done just enough to scare off the receiver. With Perkins. Gets it to Driscoll, and Driscoll fires a bomb, and it's a nice grab there from Clutton, one of the many 6-foot-plus guys on this roster, and then they'll punch it right into the end zone. Michael Hayes comes down with it, and it's now 8-8. Things all tied back up after a couple of for Texas.
Yeah, that's certainly exactly what we talked about them needing to do with this half, is to dominate in the air. When you have mismatches down the field like that and throwers who can put it up, it's not as hard as it looks. And especially when, now that the wind has died down, that was the first time I feel like I've seen somebody go up and catch the disc at the highest point that they could and feel confident that they were going to actually get it, right? Like, it's tough to read the disc in the wind, but now, they're finally getting that comfort level back, and we're seeing some bigger plays in the air because of it.
8-8 the score here. Sun heading towards the horizon here in California. The end of a long, trying day for these teams. It's been a bit of a battle against the elements and against your own ability to stay mentally focused and in the game when every point is 15, 20 turnovers.
Yeah, it's on top of that, just the pure frustration of playing points like that. It's I think it's a real testament to the sportsmanship of all of these athletes. We haven't seen it get chippy amid that frustration.
Strike cut there from Wisconsin. Now in a power position, Ross Barker now looking to get it off the line, finds a strike cut, but instead it goes into the middle and off the turf. Didn't hit the target. So Cunningham will pick up for Texas, and he'll immediately throw it into the ground. And you know, that may be a sign of maybe a little bit of uncertainty about his flick from earlier in the day because of the wind. You see that in a turf throw there. Big bit on the sideline. Tommy Gallagher holding for Wisconsin. Finds the around, but there's going to be a pick. Probably going to send that back.
It's been a rather spirited game thus far. Not a lot of calls, not a lot of chippiness. Just guys happy to be able to throw the disc back and forth for once in the day.
And right to the front cone of the end zone goes Wisconsin's Ross Barker punching it in. And Wisconsin back on top, 9-8. See Wisconsin on the line. Looking for another break. So the pull getting set here. Both teams signaling readiness, and it's up. More or less the same offensive line for Wisconsin most of this game. Nice deep cut from Mitchell Bennett, and it's going to be Driscoll looking for Bennett, but a huge play downfield from Wisconsin, going backwards but getting up and making the block.
Sometimes you just got to do whatever it takes.
And we see Wisconsin setting in a vertical stack. Looking deep right away. But it won't quite connect. It was a great look. Had a step. Disc swings out to the far side. Back in the hands of Driscoll. Thinks about it. Does it. Big flick. Defender in the area, though. Big grab, but out of bounds.
Yet again.
From Clutton. And we keep seeing those plays right at the back of the end zone. And more often than not today, partly because of the wind, they've been pushed just outside of the playable area. So back comes Wisconsin. And it's a big shot. Clutton in the coverage. He was behind, but it's not going to matter as that throw sails just a little bit too far. A lot of throws blading out to that far sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's been the sideline of death all day.
yeah, And twice now, Wisconsin's had a man downfield, but just hasn't been able to connect.
You have to wonder how much of a influence the earlier games and the shots that they were taking in that same direction have impacted how these guys are reading the disc, and how they judge the speed that they need in order to get where it's going. Now that the wind has died down, we've seen 2 in a row from Wisconsin that have just sailed a little bit too far for their intended receivers.
Driscoll finds Bennett on the sideline. Bennett moves it back towards the middle. Jansen with it, now call. Trying to get you some score updates. UNC just took half, 8-7 on Oregon in another very high-profile pre-quarter game that we didn't really expect. Both of those teams, of course, coming in as top seeds. UNC number 1 overall, Oregon number 4 overall. Disc comes around. Now, looking downfield to Clutton and into the end zone as Bennett with the assist, and Texas back on the board. So a little bit more of a slow pace start to this second half, but nice even game, and it's all tied up again at 9s.
Clutton is having himself quite a game, especially in the second half, as Texas has gone to the air more consistently. It's a big body, and he can clearly read the disc very well. And he's come down with a bunch of them too, so I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to hear his name mentioned at the end of some scores for the rest of the game.
Game to 15 here in the pre-quarter round. So still a lot of game left here. Feeling like a very even game so far.
Yeah.
And the hard cap about 40 minutes away. I didn't think we would have a chance to get to it, but with the slower pace of the score second half, it is possible.
Yeah, it's we've had 3 points take 20 minutes in this second half, after 15 points took only an hour in the first half. So there's certainly a chance that this game doesn't go the distance as we had thought it would after the first half.
Big pull there, Cunningham. Ben Raymond fires deep. It's going to be into a pile of players and a huge sky downfield from Cunningham. So he'll bring it to the line. In the hands of Jordan Taylor, back to Cunningham. And Cunningham wants a timeout. So about 5 yards back in their own end zone, Texas wants to talk, and they may see this as the potential go-ahead score here.
Yeah, at this timeout with both Driscoll and Bennett on the sideline, I'd be surprised if one of them does here.
Michael Hayes holding, dumps it back and gets it right back as Texas works out of this timeout. Cunningham with it in that power position, doesn't have a man downfield though. Swings back across.
Just to point this out, out of that timeout, Texas did sub in Driscoll to help bolster their offense.
So there's that experimental rule being taken advantage of. Jordan Taylor taps the disc back into play. Both defenses forcing a lot of resets. And Cunningham can't touch that disc because he's the one that threw it and nobody had touched it before him. So he has to let it sail past him, and it would be Wisconsin getting the disc back here. Raymond up the field, finds Peter Guerin. And Wisconsin, with just about 6 throws, goes into the end zone. And they'll be the first to crack double digits. It's 10-9.
It's, you know, we talk about parity. This game is the epitome of it at this point. Both sides have appeared in control at different points. Texas, both of the teams are doing what we talked about them needing to do to win this half. Texas is dominating in the air, and Wisconsin is, dominating in possession. Eventually it'll have to break, but now we've got to a point that one mistake might be the difference maker if both sides are able to keep up this level.
All even so far here in the second half. Team scoring in this left end zone. UNC now up 9-8 on Oregon. Very good close game. So we enter basically the final third of this contest. And this is where things like conditioning start to really make a difference. Late in the day, you've played a lot of long points. Has all that winter gym work for Wisconsin. Is that going to pay off for them here? Or can Texas take advantage of the athleticism as we watch a disc go through the hands of a usually extremely reliable Mitchell Bennett? He's had a couple of drops in this game. And Wisconsin now with another opportunity to score in this right-hand end zone with a break. And there's an injury on the field, and it's, unfortunately for Texas, Mitchell Bennett. Looks like he may have tweaked his ankle. Doesn't look too severe, but
anytime you take one of your best players off the team, off of the field, though, it's point of concern. Comes off the field saying it's just a cramp, so we should see him shortly.
So he gets replaced. And it's a shot to the end zone. Macked and sent out of bounds. Good coverage there from Cody Holloway.
Big stand right there from Texas.
Now trying to find something on offense. Doesn't really have an option, but gets one late in the stall count with Perkins coming underneath. Now Driscoll with it. He goes up the sideline to Colby Jansen. And a serious collision, but no call from Texas after a big bid through the body as the whole sideline groans. But toughness from Tough here as he plays on. Texas working patiently. Clutton. Chris Brooks Wants a shot down the field, but it's going to be easily D'd. More Wisconsin players around that than Texas ones.
Yeah, it's one of the first times today that we've seen Texas kind of, stalling out, not getting the movement that they need. And, really you expect that to come from your star players like Will Driscoll, who's put on this point and it's kind of disappeared a little bit.
Now looking, big floaty huck here. Everybody piling underneath it. Pops up, gets intercepted by a Wisconsin player. It's Eric Jorgensen, gets rid of it. A shot to the end zone, this time on target, and Wisconsin punches it in for the break and takes an 11-9 lead against Texas.
That's a huge point right now, Charlie. The closer we get to 15, the more important every increment gets, and to have a little bit of a cushion right now has to make the Wisconsin side feel, a little more comfort. Obviously, not enough to back off the gas, though.
And a little bit of an odd point there for Texas, struggling to get something going. And this has been one of the critiques of Will Driscoll, is that sometimes doesn't play like the superstar that he really can be. And part of that is that he really does play within the system of Texas, but there are times when he's out there where you really just want to see somebody go out and win their matchup and be the guy that gets every other throw for a point here and there.
Yeah.
And when they needed him on that point, didn't get it. So of course he's made some great plays in this game, and it's not to take anything away from him, but what's going to happen down the stretch here? That's the big question mark.
Right.
I remember last year watching Tyler DiGirolamo take Pittsburgh at a game at warm-up back from down 2 or 3 points, with the other team on game point. I think they were playing Dartmouth, and he literally brought them back. It was just him stepping up and taking over and bringing them back. And that may be what Texas needs right now.
Yeah, and especially this is a guy who's widely considered to be the best player on his team and one of the most dominant players in the country. And I get the feeling that if someone were to watch Texas play without knowing that beforehand, it wouldn't be apparent like it would some of the other players on teams around the country. Your Jimmy Mickles, your Chris LaRoques. Like he doesn't have that. He plays within the system. He doesn't go out there yell at his teammates like a lot of stars do, which is a benefit. But he also isn't, flashy, and flashy sometimes is what ends up winning a game.
We'll see what he can bring down the stretch here. He's out on this point. And a very big point here. Mitchell Bennett back out on the field as well, rolled out the cramp in his calf. So they'll have their starting 7 out there on offense. Vertical stack look here from Texas. Wisconsin doing a very nice job of taking away the first option for Texas. Really struggling to find things downfield. Not a lot of options coming out of that stack. There's one, and it's Driscoll. And now it's going to be Driscoll firing a big flick that's going to fade away from the defender, and frankly, that was an outstanding throw, and it was simply dropped by Whit Perkins. Beautiful look from Will Driscoll, and
I believe we have a call.
we may indeed have a call, because that was absolutely in the hands of Perkins. So the foul call was upheld. So a completion for Driscoll. Perkins taps it in. Got the whole team behind him, no timeout. Instead dishes it back to Bennett. Bennett with the inside backhand. Right back to Perkins. Not into the end zone though, and now we have a stoppage.
believe there's a pick call.
Minutes from the hard cap. Remember, no soft cap here at the Stanford Invite. Games end very abruptly at the end of the time cap.
Yeah, and it's still tough to know whether or not this one will continue at this slow pace for the rest of the half, if we'll make it there. But seems to be likely.
Jansen looks to get rid of it, finds Brooks. Brooks going to float it in to Mitchell Bennett at the front of the end zone, and it's Texas punching it in, closing the gap to 1 and scoring in this right-hand end zone, which still has a little bit of an upwind feel. So could be prove to be a big point for them. And things, you know, we just talked about it at the point before. You need your players to step up. And what do we see? We see a huge great throw from Will Driscoll, and then we see a score from Mitchell Bennett.
Yeah. It's as if we're sitting next to the field and they can hear us.
So getting down to the end here, we do see Driscoll coming to the sideline, won't play this point. And it's interesting coaching decisions. When do you use him and when do you sit him? Obviously, you want your best players out there as much as possible, but you have to think about tomorrow. You have to think about the longevity of the season.
Yeah, but you got to think about getting to tomorrow too.
Right.
And
that's very true.
If they were to trade points the rest of the way out, then they wouldn't. So, you know, it may be more of a decision to keep the lines together for the time being, and then hopefully bulk up some lines if they have to later on.
So we see the Wisconsin offense talking on the line. Texas getting set to pull here. And it will be Carlos Vargas with the pull, getting ready. Putting it up, outside in, backhand. Well stopped by Wisconsin. See a bit of a flood play here. Doesn't work out though, don't get that first option, but find the space on the second option. Pick called on the field though. It's Ross Barker holding the disc right now. Barker's played well in this game, just a sophomore.
Yeah, we've seen some impressive outings from underclassmen so far today.
Long stoppages here. But disc back into play now. Moving ahead. And Raymond takes the shot downfield.
Great throw.
Just outside the end zone with a big backhand. And now floated into the end zone. Some contact, but no matter. Wisconsin punches it in. 12-10 now. And showing patience against a strong effort from the Texas defense.
Yeah, this is one of the bigger points of the game coming up right now. To feel like they still are contending for this Texas mentally and just score-wise need to punch this one in. A break from Wisconsin would be huge, and likely a dagger in the coffin.
It's a nail in the coffin.
Dagger and what? It's been a long day for us at Ultiworld, sitting in the sun.
More than anything, it's been the wind making it difficult to truly analyze games. I mean, things were very, very similar for most of the day, so we're getting a real treat here at the end of the day, and hope you're enjoying the coverage. Wisconsin up a pair here on Texas. And here comes the pull. Moves into the middle. Now out to the far side for Mitchell Bennett. There's Driscoll. Hear the sideline yelling thrower. And that throw, a swing pass intended for Jansen, has a little too much on it. And Wisconsin now with a huge opportunity. Stuhlegros holding, flipping it out into the space. Nice throw. Finds Johnson and a monster block. Mitchell Bennett getting a hand on that one in the lane and perhaps saving not only the point, but potentially the game here for Texas.
Absolutely.
And as you pointed out before this point, they needed this one, and a big bid there doesn't connect.
You can tell these teams really know what's on the line here, and they want to win, and they're fighting these last points.
Driscoll. Now a shot down the field, looking for Driscoll. Driscoll catches it, and he's inbounds. Thinks about the spike, decides otherwise. But either way, it's a point for Texas. 12-11 the score.
By the way that he caught that disc, I thought that he had to have been out of bounds. That was one of the more nonchalant scores I've seen in a while.
Yeah, sort of caught the trailing edge, looking like he was making a last-ditch effort to grab it, but seemed to be actually well inbounds.
Yeah. You know, whatever works, I guess.
Down a point. Texas looking to set up. Once again, we see Driscoll head to the sideline.
Yeah, and you know, I have to imagine that this is a coaching decision, but I, you know, would expect a guy like that to be in a point like this where, you know, you're within one of a team that's within 3 of finishing the game.
Light getting low here in Stevenson, California. Texas sideline getting fired up. As we see Wisconsin take the line. Their offense putting a foot on the line. And here comes the Texas pull. And it's another big blading backhand pull. Stopped quickly by Wisconsin. Centered up. Hard defense here from Texas. Knowing the value of this point, and this disc floats up high, and it's going to be a big D, and there's going to be a foul called. Michael Hayes coming over the top. Tommy Gallagher calling a foul. What did you see, Wes?
I didn't see much. I would think that the foul would. Okay. No foul. It's clean play. That's what it looked like to me.
It looked like Hayes came over the top, got the D, and then may have come down onto the arm after he made the block, which is widely interpreted at this point as not being a foul. So
and clearly the observers agree.
The observers agree. So it's going to be Texas disc with a chance to tie the game at 12s. Disc on the sideline here with Vargas. And we have a stoppage. Starting to get a little bit chippy as we get towards the end of this game.
Yeah, you know, these are two teams that feel like they're well within control of their own fate, which has not been the case for most of the day. And yeah, the competitive nature of anyone in this position is coming out in them.
Gets it off the sideline. Now a full swing. Cunningham holding, but Texas getting pushed back. There's a little bit of forward motion. Trying to find somebody downfield.
Very patient on this point.
Clutton moves it ahead. Another stoppage. We have a pick called downfield. Inside flick is going to get kicked up by Wisconsin. Ambitious throw there, and a chance for Texas slips away, so we'll see if they can continue to put on the defensive pressure that they showed at the first possession for Wisconsin. Clutton gets pulled in, and a big shot down the field. And the Wisconsin player catches up to it, now just outside the end zone, looking to make it a 2-point game yet again. Dumps back. And there's going to be a timeout called. So Wisconsin wants to talk things over with a 12-11 lead.
About 17 minutes before cap.
So Wisconsin 12, Texas 11. We'll be right back after this message. Back, Stevenson, California. Charlie Eisenhood
Sweatshirts.
alongside Wes Kronk. And with the score 12-11, Wisconsin now has an opportunity to get one step closer to a victory and a big upset over Texas with the score here. Coming in off of a timeout, vertical stack here from from Wisconsin. And we have another stoppage. And been more and more calls down the stretch here. Dumped back. Now inside backhand, not quite into the end zone, right on the line. Looking to punch it in. Anticipation, and another call is going to send that throw back.
We certainly are seeing a little more chippiness in the waning moments of this game.
Holding, looking, throwing, but too far out in front, goes out the back of the end zone, and some frustrated Wisconsin parents on the sideline throw their hands up as now Texas gets another opportunity to tie the game.
Yeah, I mean, that throwaway essentially keeps Texas in this game. You know, teams like this are never quite out of it, but a 2-point lead at this point would be tough to
It's going to be a huge backhand looking for Clutton, and Clutton goes up and gets it using his height very well, uses the left hand to reach up, pull that down.
Great positioning.
Dumps it back, and it's a drop Cunningham, who just put up that nice throw to Clutton, can't hang on to the dump pass. And it's been that kind of game for Texas. Little miscues followed, you know, paired up with really nice plays. You can see their potential, but hurting themselves with some small mistakes. Now a big shot, but Cunningham going to have a chance to redeem himself here and easily makes the D. And another big backhand. This one easily D'd by the Wisconsin defender.
These teams certainly aren't scared of airing it out.
Jordan Taylor will walk to the disc to set the mark. Wisconsin for the strike cut. Instead hits the underneath. Big gainer up the open side. And he's out of bounds, says the observer on that sideline. And a TMF is immediately applied, I believe, to the sideline, maybe for language. And a lot of frustration, and another TMF just given for arguing with the observers. Frustration because Wisconsin player believed that he was in bounds, but the observer's ruling will stand. Big swing for Texas. Cunningham finds some space. And it's another turnover for Texas. So another long point here. Backhand to the end zone, contested, but caught by Wisconsin. Now a flip out to the middle of the end zone, and it's a score for Wisconsin as the sideline rushes the field. They take a 13-11 lead over Texas as time winds down in this game.
Yeah, you know, that could have been it for Wisconsin right there. With about 10 minutes until cap, a 2-point lead. You know, they have to feel like they're getting close to wrapping this one up.
Well, I mean, the game is theirs to lose.
Right.
You know, they're in control. So they can simply trade out on offense and win this game.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the length of the points in the second half, you have to expect that we're, you know, at most looking at 1 or 2 more scores before this is over.
And no Driscoll on the field that last point.
Yeah, I was wondering whether or not
a bit of a surprising move. Is, you know, in a game that is essentially an elimination game.
Yeah, once they had the disc, I was wondering if they would turn to the timeout, since we saw them do it before, to try to get him in there and help their offense.
Instead, it's a Wisconsin score and a 13-11 lead. And this, you know, we were talking about how the Stanford invite played out last year. You know, this is sort of reminiscent of what happened to Texas last year, when they had a really a dreadful Saturday, and then ended up playing very well on Sunday, but completely missed the bracket. And here they are facing down the possibility that they're going to miss the bracket yet again, despite coming in as one of the top seeds of the tournament.
Yeah, you know, especially with the forecast at what it was, I really expected this Texas team to be able to utilize their size a little bit better to
and we've seen them do it at times. Both Driscoll and Clutton have gotten open and caught some nice plays as we watch Mitchell Bennett avoid the block. Here's Driscoll on the sideline. Out into the middle. Late bid from the Wisconsin defender. Players calling to set that stack. Now a shot looking for Driscoll, but the throw not on target there from Chris Brooks. So Wisconsin with a chance here to really shut the door on this game if they can score here.
Yeah. If they can punch this one in, you have to assume they pretty much locked it up.
Swing out to the far side.
Great adjustment there after a miscommunication.
Absolutely started to go out, but then came back underneath once he saw that the throw had gone up, but won't matter as Will Driscoll is in the right place at the right time to make the block there in the middle. Texas, again, really relying on their resets a lot here. I've had trouble finding a lot of good open cuts down the field. There's Driscoll, though. He's been consistently able to find that underneath space. And now he'll fake a flick, throw a backhand into the end zone, and he'll find Whit Perkins for the Texas score. So this game will stay close. 13-12 now, Wisconsin with a 1-point lead.
Yeah, you know, we talked about somebody who needed to come up big. That's a perfect throw at the perfect time. And, you know, we talked about it before, watching him come off the field for these defensive points. I'd be very surprised if the coach takes Driscoll off at this juncture.
Calvin Lynn, a veteran coach of this Texas squad. And they've made some adjustments since last year. It does look like...
Oh, he's over on the side, hunched over. Possible he's just not in the game shape he needs to be in right now.
You know, it's coming back off of an injury. Didn't play in the fall. There could be some fatigue. And it could just be that he's not on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And that they're running strict lines. And that's, you know, that there could be very much a long-term approach there from Coach Lynn.
You can't argue with it until you see what happens in the series.
And that's, you know, that's the approach that a lot of teams take. This regular season doesn't really mean anything. This is
Right.
all about development.
Especially these teams that are pretty confident that they will get the bids that their region are allotted without having to really fight to get that strength bid and, you know, get that last chance in.
So Texas here getting set to pull Carlos Vargas with the disc. And this really feels like a critical point. We're 6 minutes from the hard cap. So if Texas doesn't score here, this game is very likely to be concluded with a hard cap and a Wisconsin victory. Hard fight, nice strike cut there. Force switching a little bit. Now more flat and a foot block, but a foul called. I believe no contest here. Vargas got it while it was still in the Wisconsin player's hand.
Yeah, by the sound, it sounded like he got all hand.
Stall on 0. Nothing happening downfield for Wisconsin, so they'll hit the swing. Out to the far side. And now a big shot. Backhand down the field, gonna float into a pack of players. Everybody goes up.
Wow.
And it's a Wisconsin player coming down with it. A big spike and a 2-point lead with just 5 minutes to go until the hard cap. Could that be it? Could Wisconsin have just sealed the win with a big catch in a pile of players late in this contest?
Man, going into this weekend, if you would have told me that Wisconsin was going to upset Texas in the pre-quarters just to make the bracket, I would have thought that you were crazy.
Well, and look at the tournament so far today. The only 1 seed to emerge unscathed, Colorado.
Yeah.
And they finished 3-0. They're already home. Pittsburgh, comes out of Pool A after upsetting UNC in the final round of pool play.
Another surprise.
Oregon goes down
Mm-hmm.
to an FSU team that has been playing better and better.
Played lights out today.
And it's been a very interesting day.
Yeah.
I mean, UC Davis. I don't know that people should be too surprised to see them play well, but to go 3-0 in their pool, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Considering how well they've been playing this season, which is mediocre at best.
Yeah, I mean, that was
Looking at the results on paper.
Yeah, that was largely considered the hardest pool
Absolutely.
going into this weekend.
Absolutely. I think a dangerously underseeded UC Davis team, but you know the results warranted the seed that they got.
Yeah.
But clearly they have a great deal of talent, and they showed that today. We'll be excited to see them tomorrow as Will Driscoll puts up a big backhand. This one going to float a little too shallow to reach its intended target. He was looking for Perkins in the end zone.
Now Wisconsin gets a chance to finish this one off before cap.
Disc tapped in. Big flick right off the top. Brought down. Not in the end zone though, just outside, like landed right on the line. And now they're into the end zone, and that will do it.
Wow.
Wisconsin takes down Texas, the number 3 ranked team in the country, 15-12 here in the pre-quarters, and the unthinkable maybe has just happened. Texas misses the bracket here at the Stanford Invite.
So we're guaranteed at least 2 of our 1 seeds to miss the bracket, huh?
That's right. And UNC was leading Oregon. Let's see if we can get a score update on that game right now. UNC does take down Oregon 15-12. So UNC moves on to Sunday. And we'll still waiting to see the final outcome of the Central Florida game. There, Central Florida currently leads 13-12 over UC San Diego. Another very closely contested matchup. So great stuff here from the Stanford Invite. Thanks so much for being with us today. Final score here in this pre-quarter matchup, Wisconsin 15, Texas 12. For Charlie Eisenhood, Wes Kronk, and all of us here at Ultiworld, thanks so much for watching today. And be sure to tune in tomorrow for bracket play. We'll have the men's quarters, semis, and finals. And you can check ultiworld.com for the schedules. We will have more information about the games that we will be streaming later today once we figure out all of the quarterfinal matchups. And we'll be, of course, making decisions about the semis as the quarters conclude tomorrow.
Should be an exciting Sunday.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.